All right, we're back, everyone. You don't see her very often, but Columbus native Emma Rose Davis is behind the scenes in the WCBI newsroom, working on social media and producing the 6 o'clock newscast. And all that's cool and everything, but she is often the bearer of goodies in the newsroom. So we asked her to show us how she makes a family favorite. Hey there, Emma Rose.
Hey, Aundrea.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you.
So what are you making for us?
So today I'll be making my grandmother's tea cake recipe. It's a very southern recipe. We were talking about it earlier in the newsroom, and one of our more northern reporters was like, I've never heard of that. So I've been making these as long as I could sit on the counter. I've been making these for Christmas. So.
All right, well, get us started.
So you'll basically, it's really simple. You'll start with about 1 3/4 cup of sugar, and you will put it in a bowl. You're going to cream that together with 1 cup of Crisco or vegetable shortening. Then you will add in 2 eggs and a teaspoon of vanilla. Mix that all together and get it real creamy and nice. Then you're going to go in and you're going to have sugar, or not sugar, you're going to have flour, salt, and baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of each of those, and 2 3/4 cup of flour. Okay. And you will just mix all that together.
So does it need to be all-purpose or self-rising, or does it matter?
All-purpose.
Okay.
All-purpose for sure.
All right.
So you're going to mix your creamed mixture with your flour mixture. And for the sake of time, I will show you, this is what your dough is going to end up looking like. All right. So you're just going to roll that out.
And this is the real fun part, isn't it?
Oh, yes. You can get a rolling pin. You can use an old wine bottle, a mason jar, a glass, whatever you have. This actually happens to be my other grandmother's rolling pin. And then I like to take what we use are vintage cookie cutters. So I used to take these that are my grandmother's and use them to cut the cookies out. And so that's what we have here today.
So are these sort of a staple at the family gatherings around Christmas time?
Absolutely. We make them every year. My cousins and I get together. My grandmother has since passed. She's been gone for 5 years, and we do these as a tradition to keep up her legacy and do it every year. So you can always do fun different icing flavors. You can do these really for any holiday, but we specifically use them around Christmas.
What's your favorite way to have them, with or without the icing?
With the icing, buttercream frosting all day, every day.
Our chief meteorologist, Keith Gibson, would agree with that, I'm sure. He likes a good buttercream also.
Can't go wrong. And actually, we will have a web-exclusive buttercream frosting recipe, so you got to check out our website to see the recipe that I use for that one.
Think about Christmases of the past with your family. What are some of your favorite memories, Emma Rose?
Oh, there's so many, but I think one in particular is the year we got my sweet pup, Bandit, who you might see pictures of in some of our WCBI promos. Oh, there he is, our sweet boy. I've had him since I was 10 years old, and I'm almost 23 now. So we spent a Christmas in Switzerland, but honestly, just staying in Columbus, walking around, seeing the lights, and spending time with family around town and eating and all those good things. Was there one gift that you can think of as a child growing up that you just had to have and it needed to be there other than Bandit? Other than Bandit, an American Girl doll. I have a picture of me jumping in the air, screaming when I saw it, and it was truly still a gift that I have cherished and loved, and I can't wait to pass that down to my daughters one day. Then did you have all the accessories that went with the doll? Oh, of course. We went to New York, did the whole thing, had the dog, the clothes, the accessories. Sure. Really, you know, it can't go wrong with a good American Girl doll. You cannot. For the holidays. So once you've got our cookies cut out, how long do they need to go in the oven for? So they really only need to bake for 8 to 10 minutes. You can bake them on parchment paper, or I even have used just the Pam butter spray. And let me ask you this, what is the trick to making sure they stay soft? Because I like a soft cookie, and I need it to remain soft, you know, for the duration of the time it's at my house. So it's got to be, you can cut them a little thicker, depending on what size you want them. You can cut them a little bit thicker so they stay soft, and that 8 to 10 minute range is really going to be the perfect combination to make sure that they stay that soft and chewy, but also a little crunchy on the outside. All right. Well, I can't wait to get my hands on one of them. Thank you for coming and sharing your grandmother's recipe with us. Of course. My TV debut, I appreciate it. All right. Emma Rose, Merry Christmas to you. Welcome back, everyone. Between quarantine and winter, many of us have spent more time in the kitchen. So we wondered, what is your go-to kitchen tool? Your must-have. Our social media producer, Emma Rose Davis, loves to bake, and we are often the benefactors of that. We've asked Emma Rose to join us this morning. Good morning, Emma Rose. Good morning, Aundrea. How are you today? Doing good. You were here for our cooking show, and you made some yummy cookies that you shared your recipe from your grandmother. So you've brought today some sort of must-haves in your kitchen. I have so many must-haves that I have to have in our kitchen. The number one thing I think for any Southern family, anyone in the world should have one of these, It's a black cast iron skillet, perfectly seasoned. If you're like my family, have it generations passed down. There's truly no telling how long this one has been here. This is a medium size. We've got a small one that doesn't fit our stove. So I just think it's really important to have one. You can bake in it. We love to put biscuits in this and bake them in the oven. It gives such a good flavor to the biscuits, but you can also saute some fresh green beans, okra, anything. You really have so many possibilities with a cast iron skillet.
The one thing I can remember my grandmother always making in the skillet, you know, we didn't do cornbread muffins growing up. We had cast iron skillet cornbread.
Of course, and you got to heat up the oil in the oven before you do the cast iron. I mean, it's a whole process, but it's so worth it because it has the best flavor.
And you just cut it into perfect little triangles.
Of course, of course.
All right, so beyond the skillet, what's next?
So our next thing that I'm going to share with you is a mixer. Now, I personally have a handheld mixer like this one, and I have a standing KitchenAid mixer, which I love. I think you can have either of them. Personally, we have both and use them both. You can do anything from frosting to mashed potatoes, really get anything nice, fluffy flavor, taste, height. You can do meringues for a chocolate pie. You really, I think this is a staple you need to have in your kitchen because it is just has so many uses.
All right, so you mentioned the really fancy one, you know, the one that's on the stand that we all love. They can be pretty pricey.
They
so
can.
Will the handheld do exactly what the pricey one that's on the stand will do?
It will, and honestly, for storage reasons, I love the handheld one because you can just tuck it away in a cabinet and not really have to look at it every day as you might with a standing mixer.
All right, and then you can just take the detachments out and they go in a drawer.
Exactly. Or if you are like my family, we store them in the bowl in the mixer. So then you have it all combined.
That makes sense. All right, what else you got?
So my next thing, and this seems so simple, are good wooden spoons. I can't tell you how many times I was in friends' apartments in college and trying to cook and they didn't have wooden spoons.
Where's your wooden spoon?
I mean, who raised you? No, wooden spoons are great. This one was made from a family friend of ours. This one I'm sure we've had in my kitchen forever, but you can bake with them. I mean, just need a good wooden spoon. So simple.
So if you're cooking things on the stove top, is this good for stirring and all that?
I prefer to use a wooden spoon than a plastic one. For some reason to me, like plastic melting over hot water, you know, that kind of thing. So you can also, a little tip, if you put a wooden spoon over the top of anything that's boiling, like boiling water, it won't boil over. The wooden part of it will stop it from boiling over. So a little trip.
That is a fun fact. Okay, I see a cutting board.
Okay, cutting boards I'm very passionate about. This cutting board is so important. You need to have two different kinds of cutting boards in your kitchen. You need to have a wooden cutting board and a plastic cutting board. Your wooden cutting board's more for dry ingredients, seasonings, things of that sort, spices, things like celery, fruit, vegetables. But then on a plastic cutting board, you're gonna wanna do things more like onions and garlic and things of that sort that are a little more potent that the smell won't hold on to. So you
Because I'm thinking onions and stuff like that's going to stay in that wood.
It's going to stay, the wood's going to absorb it, and that'll just make a gross, you know, kind of lingering smell. But yeah, I would definitely recommend having two different kinds of cutting boards, wooden and plastic.
We love the Mississippi cutting board, by the way.
Of course.
All right, what else?
So my final of my top 5 must-haves is going to be a cookie sheet. And not just any cooking sheet, you're really gonna wanna have a few of them. I can't tell you how many times I've made cookies.
I have one.
I like to have a few of them. I like to have multiple cookie sheets because you can have all of your cookie dough laid out, ready to go in the oven. And I feel like in the long run, you might have to wash a few more, but it does save time because you're just constantly putting things in the oven rather than waiting on it to cool, redoing everything.
That makes sense.
You know, long run.
When you're making a big batch of cookies, you'll need multiple cookie sheets.
And I have actually brought a few extras today, Aundrea.
Well, we only have 30 seconds, they're telling me in my ear.
Okay, well, we can save that for next time if we need to.
All right, you brought some knives, I do know that, but we'll keep those for next time.
Well, perfect.
We'll put all of this, of course, on our Facebook page, and we'd love to hear from all of you out there. Let us know what your must-haves are in the kitchen. Emma Rose, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Of course, Aundrea. Thanks for having me.
Next time, there will be some food involved in this kitchen.
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome back, everyone. If you have tempting treats that are always popping up on your social media accounts and wonder, what those cookies and cupcakes taste like. Well, so do we. But we fortunately have our favorite baker, Emma Rose Davis. Emma Rose is also the WCBI social content manager, and she is here to not get on Facebook and not post anything to the web, but just bake.
Just bake, which really is what I like to do after a long day of posting our social content.
And lucky for us, we're just permanent members of the focus group, so she likes to experiment, and we're happy to let her know how it goes. And it usually goes well.
They are my test dummies, and they always give the honest answer of what they like and what they don't like. So big chocolate people.
The chocolate cupcakes, we will tell people we had these. You made them for us for Valentine's Day.
I did.
And you had made them weeks before, and it was like a special request for Valentine's Day.
Yes, it was something that I had. Someone asked for chocolate cupcakes for their birthday, and I was like, well, I don't have any chocolate cake mix, and I don't want to go to the store. So I quickly did a quick Google search on how to make chocolate cake mix, and it was like, well, you can take vanilla cake mix, which is something we always keep in our house, and add cocoa powder, and then actually if you add substitute whatever water or milk liquid in your cake mix and use coffee, I use instant coffee, the same ratio, then you can have the most rich chocolate cake in the entire world.
And I will say, when we bit into those cupcakes, no clue that started out as yellow cake mix. You can't tell.
I mean, literally, it starts out as this one box of yellow cake mix. I do the recipe on the back with a cup of water, but again, instead of a cup of water, I do a cup of hot coffee.
Hot coffee.
Yeah.
So is it do you get the classic? Do you get the mild? Do you get the strongest drink? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter, but I think what I use typically is the instant, the dark roast instant coffee.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I feel like the stronger the coffee is, the more flavor it's going to bring out in your chocolate. But it also, for some reason, it brings out the flavor, but it cuts down the sweetness. Because that's something y'all have said, is that you bite into these and they're not so overly sweet that you feel sick.
Because the icing is plenty sweet, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Yes,
and icing is supposed to be sweet.
Well, sure. And with this one too, this is just a regular, again, taking a regular buttercream recipe and making it into chocolate. So,
tell me about the Jell-O.
So the Jell-O is not used in this recipe, but it is something that I keep in our house. Our chief meteorologist, Isaac Williams, uses a packet of Jell-O in his chocolate chip cookie recipe. It's something I use in my blueberry pound cake. It's something that I use, just to make banana pudding, which is my dad's favorite. We keep pudding in our house.
So for what would I substitute Jell-O? So instead of this, I put Jell-O, or is it just an additive?
I think it's just an additive. You can add it in certain cake mixes too, and it really brings out that vanilla flavor. Like I said, my blueberry pound cake recipe, which pound cakes are a big thing in your family.
Yeah, we love
For
them.
our blueberry pound cake, we use a packet of vanilla pudding, so we keep it in our house. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a substitute for anything, but definitely you're adding it in. Like I said, Isaac puts it in his chocolate chip cookies. It's not in mine, but I have had his, and they're to die for.
They're very good. So you did a cupcake version, you did a little tiny cute cake version. And this is a perfect smash cake to me for a one-year-old.
It really is, and that's something else that I love, is having just various cakes pan sizes. So I have the teeny tiny cupcake pans, I've got little bitty cake pans, I've got big cake pans, but you can even put this just in a baking dish, do your chocolate cake, make it just like a sheet cake recipe. It really, there are no bounds to the ways that you can cook this.
Is this one that you would do with layers, you think?
Yes, absolutely. I think if you did this cake and put strawberries in between the layers, that it could be a really decadent, rich, if you did the macerated strawberries where you leave them and soak them in sugar overnight, I think that could be really, really good.
I think we've all established in the newsroom, I'm not a cook, so I'm afraid to get into the kitchen and just sort of experiment. So how do you get this courage to just go in a little bit of this, let me try this, and it turns out good usually?
I spent a lot of time with my grandmother in the kitchen, and she always did that. She'd be like, well, that's not thick enough, just add a little more cornstarch. Or, my other grandmother made these no-bake cookies, and they're not setting up right. Just add a tablespoon of peanut butter. And it's just those things that a lot of us don't have the courage because we're so by the book.
Yeah,
throw
I'm a
something
recipe
in, see
gal.
what happens, and then your coworkers love it, and you bring it in. And
if it doesn't work out, just don't do it again.
And that's true, and just know that to scrap it, and that was probably what went wrong. So that's one of my favorite things. Just throw something in.
Well, one of my favorite things about cake is frosting. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll let you tell us about this. Is not out of the can frosting. She made this, and we're going to tell you how when we come back. All right, we are back and we're in the kitchen with our digital content producer, Emma Rose Davis. In addition to baking and sharing, again, she's our digital content producer. This is sort of kind of, the job that you do can get a little taxing on the brain because you're all day sort of looking at digital content, watching, you've got 2 computer screens at your desk. This is a way to kind of relax, isn't it?
It is. It's my way that if I go home, it's like, I know that it's going to work out. I've done these recipes a million times, and if they don't, then it's just, I can throw it away and start again or do whatever.
Well, let's talk frosting, my favorite part of cake.
Me too, and we've got some frosting haters in our newsroom.
We do, which I don't understand.
I don't get.
Who raised you?
In my famous words, who raised you?
Yes.
People will literally scrape the frosting off, which I don't. I'm like, give it to me, I'll eat it extra.
Love it. Yeah.
So this frosting is something really easy. My mom taught me when I was young. I don't know why this is weird. Apparently, to some people use Crisco. So it's just a half a cup of Crisco, a stick of softened butter.
Can I just, so when Emma Rose first brought these, she made me a little recipe card because I love them so much. And I'm like, I don't have any Crisco in my house.
Yeah, that to me.
Growing up, it was a staple, though.
Well, and if you're not like my family, where we use it for biscuits, cakes, everything under the sun. I mean, to
Do you fry?
oil. I've fried hot wings in it. If I've run out of vegetable oil, I'll just throw some of that in and make it work. But you don't have to have the giant can of it. You can buy it in sticks in smaller containers if you're not like me using it, at this point a few times a week.
All right.
So it's just half a cup of that, a stick of butter softened, 4 cups of powdered sugar, a half a cup of the cocoa powder, and
more cocoa powder,
and then a splash. I think the technical is like a tablespoon of vanilla. I do a splash because I measure vanilla with my heart. And then the key though is when you're using your liquid, which is going to be a milk, you need to make sure that your milk is the chill is knocked off your milk. So whether that be, it's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. So I typically do about half a cup, warm it up, and then as I pour in my powdered sugar, I do that. So just knock the chill off. It doesn't need to be like simmering or anything like that, but just 10, 20 seconds in the microwave and it'll be perfect.
Let me ask you this about softened butter, because sometimes when I'm doing some dessert recipe that calls for softened butter, I forgot to soften the butter, like leave it out all day and that makes it soften. And then I put it in the microwave and it becomes liquid. Does that affect the outcome if it's not necessarily softened?
Yes, it does. So especially for frosting, the consistency is very important. So I would say the best thing you can do if you know you're going to make it that night, set it out in the morning. But if not, my secret tip is to get a glass jar that is going to cover, that'll be, the size of the butter. Put very hot water in the glass and then just stick the glass over your stick of butter. So just stick your butter like that, stick the glass over it, and it'll soften the butter up.
Oh, there you go.
And that's like my little tip.
If you forgot to take it out.
Or just, take it, do 5 seconds at a time, turn it around, and do it that way.
When it comes to this frosting, after you've got all those ingredients, do I need to mix? Do I need to stir?
Yes, mix. I use a mixer, like a standing mixer. You can use a hand mixer. But again, you're going to do your butter and your Crisco and your vanilla, and then you're going to do your dry ingredients with your milk added in to add that liquid.
Your room temperature sort of not chilled milk. The best part about the frosting though is the presentation, and you don't just slap it on with a knife. You've got all the fun utensils, don't you?
I do, and these are, I typically have piping bags, but because I'm for some reason can't find any of mine, just use a Ziploc bag, put it on the corner, cut the tip off of it, and pipe it out.
And there you go, you pipe it out.
I didn't even use any sort of tip or anything like that, and especially these people know they don't get the fancy stuff as much anymore because it takes a little more effort.
And the thing I love about the teeny tiny cake, throw on some sprinkles and it just makes it so very festive.
It's just fun. It's just fun, and it really can brighten up someone's day. So it's a good time.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm about to have a cupcake. It's going to happen here in a minute. Thank you, Emma Rose.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
We'll be back. Stay with us.